Welcome back to Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. I am Greg Rand. This is Rand on Real Estate. And our mission here is to help people learn how to build wealth in the U.S. housing market the right way. We're broadcasting today from the RE/MAX R4 convention, a global gathering of real estate experts that are all in one place, which means we have the opportunity to talk to people who are really knowledgeable about their little piece of heaven, okay? There's not a national market, but there is a national marketplace made up of hundreds of cities and towns. Every one of them is different. Everyone has different fundamentals, and there's something out there for everybody. So as the world shrinks and as the opportunities to invest any place in the country that you want exists, we're here to help advise you and give you ideas and teach you how to analyze the market so you pick winners. And speaking of winners, we've got Erica West from RE/MAX in Fountain Hills, which
Arizona.
Where is that now, Erica?
It is on the eastern border of Scottsdale. So
Okay.
we actually touch Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay. So the airport you fly into is Scottsdale or Phoenix?
No, fly into Sky Harbor in Phoenix,
Okay.
and about a 20-minute ride from there, you've got Fountain Hills, and you have a town of incredible beauty. It is a micro market, micro town.
Okay.
With about 22,000 to 23,000 people.
Okay.
Very full-service community, schools, shops.
So a bit of a best of both worlds thing, because you're near a big city, so you have all of that going on, but you're broken away enough so you have a little bit of separation from the madness?
Absolutely. That's what makes it such a great place to live. It's also a place of incredible beauty because we're in the mountains.
Oh, you are? Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
So people don't understand that Phoenix is a valley and it's surrounded by mountains.
I did not understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I'm learning something already. We're only in this 3 seconds. All right, so when we analyze a market, what we do is we put on a hat of like somebody who's going to open a Home Depot or a Lowe's, all right?
Right.
We have to pick a market that we have to have confidence in that's going to have population growth and strong jobs and basically people that are going to own property and want to keep that property in good condition. You know, that's how Lowe's does not open a 300,000 square foot store on a whim. They have to know they got 50 years worth of positive indicators of housing demand well into the future before they're going to put a shovel in the ground for one of those big stores. So to put that same kind of hat on, the first thing that we do, look at what is happening from the standpoint of charts and graphs and data. And once we have that down, we start asking people, don't make a face, it's easy. So we're looking at, you're listening, but we're looking at something together here. But for the radio audience, let me describe two things. First, the housing chart for the greater Phoenix area, which you're connected to, looks a little bit like the Liberty Bell for the last 10 years. Okay, it starts at a low point, it goes almost to a complete vertical, and then it peaks, and then it comes all the way down also in a complete vertical, and then it lands pretty much where it started back in 2001. That sound about right to you?
That's about right. Yeah.
So if you bought a house 10 years ago and held on to it, you didn't lose any money, but if you bought it 5 years ago, you did.
And you lost a lot of it.
Lost a lot, yeah. So our heart goes out to the folks in those markets like Phoenix and the greater Phoenix area, because it's a painful experience to believe and trust the housing market and then get hurt like that. But having said that, the opportunities now are incredible because Phoenix isn't going away. You know, the fundamentals for Phoenix were tampered with, right? Why? Because Fannie Mae decided to give away free money to anybody with a pulse, because a lot of developers and speculators converged on your marketplace and built way too many houses for future potential housing demand that didn't materialize. And so those things were real, but they were isolated and they were temporary and they're explainable. So now as we get past that, we believe the opportunities there are really great given what we think is going to be happening. So you mentioned we're also looking at a chart that shows migration in and out of the greater Phoenix area. And you've told me before we started here that you see that improving right now.
Yes. Yeah, it had been huge back in 2004, 2005, before the crash. And it was, people were just flying into the community. Then when the crash came, mostly predicated on the fact that the job market fell so much that they started to bail out of the area, which of course left an awful lot of properties distressed and empty.
So they went chasing jobs elsewhere because the jobs now. Who are the big employers? Are there a handful? Is there certain industries that drive the economy in Phoenix, greater Phoenix?
Well, there's Intel is there,
okay,
and Hewlett Packard is there. the major industry in Phoenix was actually construction.
Okay. All right.
So
that went away.
That was killed. Those are pretty much the major ones. Credit card company has just opened and is hiring a few thousand people.
Now, that company, did they come from someplace else? Did they move out of another state to come to you?
I'm not sure. I think they did.
Yeah, because you know what? I know that your governor actively recruits companies out of California in a very hands-on, person-to-person way, which ticks a lot of people in California off, but hey, that's the way life is, right? And so that migration, California and New York are the two highly populated states on the coast. They're also very expensive to live in. And even though they have property tax caps in California, it's still an expensive place to live overall. And so some of the drivers of outbound migration out of places like that have everything to do with quality of life and cost of living. Now, quality of life in California is pretty darn good, but the cost of living is not so good. And you guys have a lower cost of living. Give me an example of give me a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in your area. What would that sell for, and what would the taxes be on that?
Would sell for between, let's say, $250 and $325, and the taxes on that at this particular time would probably be about $1,100 a year.
Oh my God! Well, you must not have any police then, or something, right?
Well, actually, we do. We have Sheriff Joe.
Oh, you got Sheriff Joe?
We have Sheriff Joe. He's in charge of our community.
Oh, so you got some serious police.
Yeah, and he lives.
$1,100 a year. They must not pick up your garbage then, right?
No, that we pay for.
That you pay for.
That we do.
Okay.
We pay for. But
I'm joking because I have a house that's probably similar in size. It costs 3 times as much, and it costs me $15,000 in taxes. Whenever I hear $1,100, I assume that you have to, put your own fires out or something because they can't possibly have any services for that low of a cost. But you guys, that's an amazing thing to pay $1,100 a year in taxes for a house.
Well, it does go $1,100 to like $1,600. It really depends on the
That's
property.
A monthly tax bill where I live.
I know. I left Massachusetts many years ago.
Yeah.
For Massachusetts purposes.
Oh, funny. Yeah. Well, so now that price bracket, that's higher than like in Phoenix proper. Your properties are more expensive.
A little bit, yeah.
But so your terrain is different. You said describe it again to me so we can paint a picture for the listeners.
Well, one of the reasons. Most of our homes are custom, even at that price range.
Okay.
So although we do have some subdivisions and some development housing, most of the homes are custom. So you actually can go in and buy a home for $325,000 that is different than any other house on the street.
Wow.
We also have, our name of our town is Fountain Hills. So hills.
So wait, there's hills.
Hills. And there's lots of them. And that's part of the reason that we have such a great community is because of the beauty of the community, because we are in the hills.
You still get cactuses up there?
Yes, we get many cactuses up there, right? But what we also have is we are backed up to reservation land and the McDowell Regional Park. So we cannot grow any bigger. We're landlocked.
Oh, that's interesting.
So when we're sold out, when all the land is gone, that's it.
That's a really important point because, again, we were talking about, you look at your neighbors over in Phoenix. One of the reasons why that market got hurt as badly as it did was because there was a lot, the developers, it's scary because one guy gets the idea, 60 other guys come and do the same thing. They build subdivisions for presumed demand, and they glut the market with supply. And pure supply and demand, when there's too much supply, the sellers compete with each other in a reverse bidding war. They lower their prices until somebody's willing to buy. And that glut of supply makes me a little bit nervous about the rental market in Phoenix. Just a little bit nervous. Doesn't pull me away from it, but if you've got too many properties that are driving the home prices down, when those properties sell to investors, they may potentially have a suppressing effect on the rental market. Your marketplace is different because you're literally landlocked, which means there is not an endless supply of buildable lands. Once you hit the border, you're done.
We're done. That's correct. But thinking also we did get very hard hit with the distressed properties, with short sales and foreclosures. People lose their homes. They have to have a place to go.
Right.
So that really has increased the rental market, and the rental prices did go up quite a bit. And the rental market is still extremely good.
Yes, it's an amazing phenomenon that we're seeing. I'd never seen this before, where home prices and rental prices, usually the cost of housing is the cost of housing. If you're buying or if you're renting, these things are going to generally go in parallel. That if one becomes more expensive, so does the other one. Here, they've diverged because home prices are based not on rents, but based on comparable sales, and rents are based purely on demand. And right now, you're right. Somebody who's coming out of a house, telling your kids are moving, is no big deal if you move into the same neighborhood, same town, same school district. I don't lose my friends. I just made the JV team, Dad. You can't pull me out of the school, right? All that kind of stuff. That was a personal experience of mine. I worked for years to get to the JV. But that's a really important thing. The segments of renters that are the hottest right now are not going into apartment complexes. They're going into single-family homes. And so the beautiful thing is for individual investors, my passion, individual investors that might buy 2 or 3 or 5 properties during this down cycle and just hang on to them forever, and pay them off. It's like real estate done right? Not turning it into a fast flip. You buy low, you hang on to it, you let the market revive. You pay the thing down, and when you retire, you're retiring with 5 houses paying you rental income, or you sell them all and live fat and happy on the equity that you built up. It's a life-changing opportunity. I mean, I know that you work with investors in your marketplace now.
Yes.
Where are they coming from? You got a combination of local and...
They're coming from all over. There are local, there's local from the area, there's many coming from out of town, and there's an amazing number coming from Canada.
Really? Canada?
Yes.
I've heard this.
Yes, amazing. They're coming in, and the Canadian dollar is so strong, they come in and they buy for cash. They don't even have to think about appraisals or banks or so on, and it's making for a completely different and amazing market.
What I love about the overseas or foreign investors, not overseas or across the border, Canadian investors showing that kind of faith in American recovery is a message that people in this country need to absorb. There's a lot of people that they hear this show, and some people get annoyed by the fact that I'm optimistic because they're happy being miserable. You know the type, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they call me or they email me a nasty email saying, you're full of it, and, this market's horrible, and the economy's horrible, and it's all terrible. And then I point to a bunch of Canadians who are pouring their capital into, I know the west coast of Canada goes to Arizona, the east coast of Canada goes to Florida, but it should give people a little bit of a warm fuzzy to know that people who are a couple thousand miles away look at our country and they know one thing, that they're confident enough to plunk their hard-earned money down. They're confident in an American recovery.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to have an American recovery without American housing recovery. They go hand in glove. I mean, literally, my company's called Own America. How cool is it that you actually can own a piece of the country that you love? You literally own it. You have a deed to it. And so people want to live here. They want to live indoors when they live here. And so as a result, demand for housing is guaranteed to continue to get stronger and stronger over time, as long as we can digest this hangover we're dealing with right now. Things are going to revive, and that's not me talking. That's a whole bunch of Canadians voting with their own pocketbooks.
Absolutely.
So, no, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to point out that the strength of the market is so dependent upon a supply and demand attitude, basic economics.
Right.
Now that the demand is getting larger and we have much less on the market, so much of the properties have been scooped up that we're a community of 22,000, 23,000 people. We have a little over 7,000 rooftops, and we only have 190 single-family homes on the market.
190?
190. At one point, when the market started to fall, back in 2007 or 8, there were over 500 homes on the market. So you can see the difference of what's happened over the last few years, and that we know we've bottomed.
It's very interesting because, it is a pure supply and demand marketplace. The term that economists use is friction. How much friction is in the market, and how manipulated can the market be? Here's an industry, a marketplace where, for the most part, every unit of product that sells is one seller controlling one unit and one buyer buying one unit. It's not like there's one supplier that can tilt the market or screw it up. There's not one buyer who can manipulate price. It's basically a really free market because everybody's working in their own best interest, and it's one seller, one buyer, one unit. When you see something like this, like it's a slow-moving market, so you can see things, the stepping stones laying themselves out. If your supply is down to less than half of what it was during the normal market or during a busy market, what's likely to happen next is an elevation in price, because it's like supply is down, demand is starting to perk. As soon as confidence comes back and demand really goes back to normal again, there's going to be a major lopsided effect. And I'm of the belief that if home prices are the same as where they were 10 years ago, that's erroneous. Okay, that's not real. That's not market forces. That is suppressed value because of the foreclosure crisis. And so you've got almost immediate upside of maybe 10 or 15%. That could happen inside of 1 year. And we don't want it to go back to 15% a year. I know you shudder when you think about that madness. But you're kind of poised for a pop. Because, with that kind of suppressed supply, and it's almost like there's buyers at the gate sort of waiting for the bell to ring, you know?
You know, we are down to a 3-month supply of homes. That's what we have. And that is really the beginning of a shift between the buyer's market and the seller's market. And that's very hard for people to swallow right now, is to have that quick of a shift.
Now, the attitudes of the sellers right now, are they, do they know it's a buyer's market and are they acting accordingly, or do they think it's a seller's market and they're acting kind of confident and cocky?
No, they're not confident and cocky. I think more of them are scared, to tell you the truth. And I think they're scared because they're not really sure what's going to happen, and people are so afraid that they cannot make enough money to make that move.
Okay.
You know, many people, they took a lot of equity out of their homes. For those who didn't take equity out of their homes because the value has fallen, they are not in a position to be able to sell their house and go on with their lives in another area or whatever lifestyle they want to accomplish. So we're on the cusp right now. We're watching these changes occur, and it's a great time for investment.
Well, it's true. I mean, you know, people ask me, when's the bottom? And my answer is we're close enough that it's important to act before everybody's clear there's a bottom. As soon as everybody's clear about the bottom, it's kind of like, you ever go in the ocean? I'm the kind of guy that every time I go in the ocean, all I think about is Jaws, all right? And if I can't touch the bottom, if my little toes are 1 inch from the bottom, all I picture is that monster coming up from the deep. I could be 1 inch from the bottom and I feel like I'm in 1,000 feet of water. I feel the bottom, my confidence comes back. When the marketplace is in agreement that we've reached bottom, seller's confidence is going to tick up a couple of notches immediately. And then as a buyer, sure, you might have gotten a better price because you waited for the absolute bottom, but you gave away the most powerful negotiating posture you could have had, which is, I hate to say it, but they're scared, they're a little bit desperate, and the buyer has control in that situation. You lose that control when everybody feels the bottom.
And we are at a point where we're actually getting multiple offers on some of the properties.
You are. So you're turning the corner now.
Our market for sure has turned it, unless something else comes in, which is that supposedly hidden properties that are foreclosed on.
The shadow inventory.
Yes. And I've gone into the site. I do know that the bank owns about 100 homes. Banks own about 100 homes in Fountain Hills that haven't been released yet.
Okay.
And they're bank owned.
Okay, so that's the kind of thing where now that they've settled that thing with the federal government and the attorneys general, there's a lot of word on the street that says that maybe the banks are going to get the green light now. They've settled. They've paid their billions. Now they can go and take recourse on those properties and unload them, which means those 100 homes are going to make 100 individuals. Hopefully they don't get scooped up by a hedge fund. Hopefully it's individuals that'll buy them at exactly the most opportune time. And then once the hangover's over,
it's over.
It's like January 4th. I don't care how late you went out on New Year's Eve. You feel better by January 4th. All right? So it was a pleasure meeting you, Erica. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
All right. See, this was great. This is Randon Real Estate in Las Vegas, and we are learning all about markets around the country that we hadn't heard of before. So thanks for being here. Give us your website so we can find you.
www.ericawesthomes.com.
ericawesthomes.com. Thank you very much. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Randon Real Estate on 77 WABC, broadcasting from the RE/MAX R4 convention in the Mandalay Bay Hotel in Las Vegas. Hope you're having fun, because we certainly are. See you in a moment.